Hi there, Agile friends. I'll come in here just with a quick note to let you know that the Agile Online Summit 2022 is coming soon. To know more, check out bit.ly/AOS2022. That's all one word, all lowercase, bit.ly/AOS2022. Now, stick around to the end of the episode if you want to know more, but for now, on to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Change Leadership episode, the Wednesday Leading Change episode today with Pedro Silva. Hey, Pedro, welcome back.
Hi, Vasco. Happy to be back.
So yesterday we were talking about a big process of change that is not easy to start. We were talking about being an inclusive team. And for those who want to know more, do go and listen to Tuesday's episode with Pedro. But today we're talking about a different type of change, or maybe even the same. Who knows? I don't know what story you're bringing us, but we want to talk about change, and we want to talk about it from the perspective of us being change agents and also change leaders. So tell us a story of one of those change processes you were involved with, Pedro, and walk us through, the step-by-step, how that happened, and highlight for us the tips, the tricks, the tools, the techniques you learned back then that you still apply today.
So when we are talking about change, I think the most impacting change that I have lived so far is working with companies that are overcoming an agile transformation.
Overcoming. What do you mean
They
by
are
that?
going through going through the process of becoming agile and implementing Scrum, right?
So
There is
adopting Scrum or an other agile practice.
Exactly. So that is a very difficult step, and the problem is, I noticed that requires really a change of mindset, and sometimes I have the feeling that is not dedicated enough time to work the mindset of the people, and people go directly to the processes. And I remember joining one team where it just happened that the product owner was acting like a project manager. So he felt like he was like the owner of the product in
So
the sense that
walk us through that. Like what did the sprint planning look like?
when I joined the team that was going in the process of implementing Scrum process, it was giving the feeling that you just have to put some tickets in Jira for the next 2 weeks that justify the invoice that you are going to pass to the other department in order to make like a planning for what is going to be done.
So they
And
just created tickets and put it there so that they could send an invoice.
exactly, and that the problem is like obviously people are working on the topics that are mentioned on the table, but they are not addressing like the core of Scrum. So they are not living Scrum in the sense that there is a lot in prioritization that is related to focus, right? So we are choosing the priority of the topics, and each work package is independent and needs to be worked on a certain priority. And it requires a certain planning, right? So when you are talking about a story is not just a placeholder, right? There is a lot behind the story that needs to be done during the refinement, right? And the better you refine the story, the better you are able to plan. So a lot of teams they disregard the importance of doing a good refinement of the story and of writing good user stories.
So the team was not really paying too much attention to what the stories included, and you looked at that and say, okay, so maybe there's some mindset change here that needs to happen. So what did you do next?
Exactly, because people were not really were only looking at stories like as a form of
Yeah.
documentation, which was not what I've seen more like a waste of time. And this really requires a lot of effort to be able to explain to the team what is actually a refinement about, like why is it useful, why is it so important to do a planning. And for example, when we are talking about the planning, and the other thing that is really important is to define a commitment, right? So you are actually committing to achieve a certain objectives. So you are not just listing your objectives. You are actually, as a team, deciding in that moment that for the next 2 weeks we are committing to achieve A, B, and C, right? And this will be the goal of everyone in the team to achieve. Of course, if you don't achieve, then because of some constraints, this can always happen, right? But it is not a moment to be taken lightly, right? Because there is a paradox. Sometimes teams happens a lot that they justify on the sprint review or on the retro. It's like, oh, we had so much to do. There was so much planned for the sprint, and sometimes you need to transmit to them. It's like you are the persons that are committing to the sprint planning. You are the persons that there is a
So
moment that is
in
given
this
to you
team, did you have the feeling that the team was kind of not really paying too much attention to it, but rather kind of deferring to the product owner who basically said, "Hey, you need to do this and this and that"? Was that what was happening in that team?
Yeah, because the product owner itself was not acting like a product owner. It was just setting up what he wanted to be done, but it was extremely decoupled from the team, right? So, and then this created the situation. So you become the requirements, you put them in tickets, and then you execute them. And then if you cannot do it, the tickets just move forward to the next sprint.
Yeah.
So,
So
and there
how
was,
did you then bring change to that team? Because it's actually a big thing, right? It's
yeah.
when you see that there's a gap, then the next question is, okay, so what do I do? So how did you do it?
So basically, it requires a lot of coaching and mentoring as well, right? It requires really a lot of even private discussions with people where you are going to discuss with them like what is really behind each concept of of Scrum. There are workshops that can help in bringing the team into the understanding of how Scrum works, right? That this is an initiative that might help in these situations. But you have one thing is that you need actually the team really to be open to such kind of events and to understand that they have a growth mindset that allows them also to be able to want to move in the direction of the agility. But if agility comes as a requirement from the management and people are resisting the change, they are not interested in
Yeah, no. I
moving
just
into the
want you to
new.
give me the user stories. Just tell me what user
Exactly.
stories to work on. So, I got from this story. There's definitely like this one-on-one discussions to understand who is already aware of that need to change the mindset and who's not, and why, and
Exactly.
talk about the value, and then of course also the idea of having like a common session with everybody. Hey, this is what refinement is. This is why we do it. This is the value we want to get out of it.
Yes.
What else did you try with that team?
So with that team, I've also tried to bring the product owner closer to the team, right? To get his engagement on the refinements, right? Because what happens a lot that I notice is teams take the planning seriously because it's the moment where you click the button to start the sprint. But sometimes the sprint planning is 2 or 3 hours, right, or 1 hour in some cases, and the problem is that those 2 hours they are not enough for you to make a proper planning of to work for 2 weeks, right?
Yeah,
And some
exactly.
people they need more time to understand to plan, right? And it is important to coach the teams into understanding that the refinements are required for to get enough number of stories ready for development so that you can focus during the planning on prioritizing them, right? So it is not, we cannot use the planning as a refinement initiative, right? And this is like bringing the time, it's like shifting the time frame of the team. And this requires really a lot of coaching, but it's also one of the important role of the Scrum Master as a coach in teams that are not high performing, but they are still actually in a forming
Yeah,
phase.
especially if you have a product owner that has a project management background, because they will definitely fall back into what they are used to, right? Like just write down the tasks, put it on a Gantt chart, and give it to the team.
Yes, but I do also believe it's like I was a project manager myself, right? I think it's not about your background. It's really about growth mindset, right? It's like you need to be humble enough to want to learn the rules of the game, right? And you need to know that, okay, there is a new framework. How am I going to act? So they expect a change from me, right? As a project manager, you also move your mindset from, or becoming a Scrum Master, you also move your mindset from being responsible for everything to becoming a servant leader, right? And you have so many people that are taking this step. And I see that from the product owner side, you also need them to first stop seeing their baby as a project and start seeing it as a product. And also making sure that they are the product owner. So they are basically owning everything that the team is developing and producing. And that requires for them to be with them, close to them, to understand, not micromanaging the team, but to understand all the requirements and to be very specific in what is expected for that team to develop and to bring clarity, right? Because while defining clear requirements, you will avoid surprises during the sprint review that things are not done like you wish to.
Yeah, absolutely. And this story and the topic of mindset and working through the team to explain the basic things also reminds me that one of our jobs as Scrum Masters is to understand and notice, observe where the team needs to go through a new thinking process, right? Like some things may be working perfectly. Maybe the dailies are working very well and the team is collaborating, but they are standing back and letting the PO tell them what to do and sometimes even how to do it. And maybe that's where we focus. So it's very important for us to be aware of, okay, so this whole idea of doing Agile, of being Agile, what is missing and what can we work on next? That's a great reminder of one of the aspects that we need to pay attention to. So thank you for sharing that, Pedro.
Welcome, Vasco.
Hi there, Agile friends. Thank you for sticking around to know more about this year's Agile Online Summit. The summit will have 4 keynotes and 4 tracks you will not want to miss. The keynotes will touch on critical topics for us, from delivering on time to helping you to focus on sustainability. The 4 tracks are tools, so we'll focus on tools you need to excel at your job, but also your mission. We'll also have a track on sustainability, which is, of course, about people and their sustainable pace, but it's also about how do we bring sustainability to the products and the planet we inhabit. We'll have a 3rd track about happiness, talking about doing what we love and, most crucially, loving what we do. And finally, the 4th track will be live. It will be mostly hands-on sessions to help you roll up your sleeves together with the presenters. Oh, and we will also have a coaching clinic, as we usually do, organized to help you discuss and get inspired to solve the hardest challenges you face at work. This year, we'll have a special emphasis on interaction with your peers, so get your ticket and join the Slack at bit.ly/AOS 2022. As always, we have free tickets for anyone that wants to attend live and the VIP tickets for those of you who want to keep the videos forever. So check them out at bit.ly/AOS 2022. I'll see you on the conference floor. Leading change is one of the core skills we must acquire, but it is only one of the steps towards our success as Scrum Masters. Tomorrow, on Success Thursday, we will talk about how to define success for the Scrum Master role, we'll cover tips on how to measure your way to that position, and most importantly, how to develop that focus on continuous improvement that is as important for Scrum Masters as it is for teams. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.